In 1973, in Hollywood, Florida, the lens catches a young Seminole woman wearing an ornate helmet. The detail isn't by chance. It signals preparation for a big moment, possibly a rite. In the shine and posture, you can feel the presence of an outfit that holds memory and affirms identity. Around 1913, the image captures young Arawak men getting ready for celebrations, wearing clothing specific to their people. The photo was taken in the south of what was then British Guiana, today Guyana, and shows a moment of cultural pride, with the boys gathered in traditional festive dress. Before we keep going, go ahead and click subscribe and turn on the bell. That way, every new episode gets to you right on time, and nothing in this journey slips by. The photograph shows athletes of the Creek Nation, also known as Muskogee, taken around the 1870s. The framing freezes an instant when traditional games were woven into community life, sustaining rituals and gatherings that kept indigenous culture alive in the Americas among relatives and allies. On August 26, 1877, a photograph brings together 4 Mojave leaders. They stand firm in a lineup that signals authority and preserves the memory of their traditions. One detail grabs your attention. The second from the left is Rowdy, from the Yuma tribe, who served as an interpreter and mediated meetings with non-indigenous people. Dated 1908, the postcard shows Kwabazar-Okwa of the Ojibwa Nation, also known as Chippewa. She sits in a low chair with a woven seat, a common piece for outdoor areas and camps at the time, suggesting a brief pause while country life goes on around her. The scene preserves memory and presence. With a keen eye, in 1903, Edward Curtis captured a scene that takes us to a valley near White Mountain Apache land. In the photograph, horses from the community carry essential utensils, revealing the logistics of a nomadic daily life and the link between territory, mobility, and survival in the early 20th century. Between 1875 and 1890, a photograph caught a Blackfoot warrior, now unnamed in the archives. Decades later, the image would take another path. A company in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, chose it for a commemorative card, bringing the public a rare fragment of the indigenous history of the plains. In 1944, in Tampa, at the height of World War II, Horace Poolaw, a Kiowa photographer specialized in aerial images, records a rare scene. Beside him, fellow Kiowa Gus Palmer serves as a gunner. The two, focused, are inside a B-17 Flying Fortress, a bomber that defined the era on an active mission. In the early years of the 20th century, a collection of postcards captured everyday scenes and landscapes of the Meskwaki community in Tama, Iowa. Together, these prints form a rare visual archive that lets us see practices, gatherings, and rhythms of Meskwaki life in that period, and their relationship with the land. In 1880, the photograph shows Rebecca Jumper, daughter of John Jumper, about to leave to study at the seminary in Granville, Ohio. The portrait freezes a turning point, when access to education was expanding for women, and still with rare exceptions for Native American women, opening paths that had been closed before. In 1930, a photograph immortalized Mary Alice Nelson, a Penobscot woman from Maine. The image concentrates the story of a people from the northeastern U.S. and their living heritage. Her very name reveals meetings and frictions, indigenous identities reshaped after centuries of contact with Europeans and Americans up to today. In 1903, the Fort Shaw women's basketball team appears in a photo that blends court and tradition. Game uniforms alongside pieces tied to indigenous heritage. Wearing these items signaled cultural pride, and at times they were part of performances held before or after games. It reinforced the team's identity. In 1903, a photograph presents the women's basketball team of the Fort Shaw Indian School. 7 young Native American women pose in a portrait formation. The framing highlights unity and discipline. They wear long-sleeved blouses and modest skirts, uniforms that followed the era's rules for women in sports. Before we keep going, go ahead and click subscribe and turn on the bell. That way, every new episode gets to you right on time and nothing in this journey slips by. Bertha Stewart is Talawa, an indigenous people whose presence stretches from the far north of California to southern Oregon. A keeper of knowledge, she preserves stories and values that cross generations. In them, she finds direction, shaping identity and guiding how she lives, speaks, and acts in the world. The photo shows young Hopi girls gathered, with an albino girl in the center. The setting is Oribe, one of the oldest continuously inhabited settlements in Arizona, land of this people. In 1886, reports noted a significant presence of albino people among the Hopi, a detail that sheds light on the scene and sparks curiosity about their history. In 1893, a photograph shows a Tepehuan family in Durango, Mexico. Taken by Carl Lumholtz, a researcher attentive to indigenous cultures, it opens a window onto ways of life, clothing, everyday objects, and the organization of the home. In the image, a Bororo man fishes in São Lourenço, Brazil, following techniques passed down through generations. The 1931 record brings us close to the daily life of this people from Mato Grosso. The precise motion, the handling of tools, and the relationship with the river reveal a tradition that sustains life. In Tlaxcala, in central eastern Mexico, the image brings together residents who carry, in their bodies and memory, echoes of Aztec heritage. Before the Europeans arrived, this people stood out for a unique political organization, with traits of a republic that crossed centuries and still supports local identities today. In Fort Sill, then Indian Territory, William Stinson Soule recorded the Sisters of the Kiowa Chief Big Tree. Between 1874 and 1896, his lens went beyond the portrait. It captured memories that today sustain the preservation of histories and ways of life, securing his legacy in documentary photography. Chief Piapo, a Plains Cree leader, bore in his language the name Payipwat, hole in the Sioux. Earlier, he had been called Kisikawasan, lightning in the sky. Both names echoed deeds and omens tied to the birth and first steps of a journey that would mark his people and their memory. The image shows Kills 2, a healer of the Brule Sioux Nation. He appears in ceremonial dress that tells his story. Leggings, a breechcloth, and other ornaments that signal belonging and role. The portrait invites us to notice the ancestral knowledge he carries and the collective strength that sustains his community. In the photo, we see John Brown Jr., son of Lewis Carl Brown and Golda Donahue, born on August 27, 1921. The timeline lines up with his family. He is the grandson of John Frippo Brown, the last principal chief of the Seminole Nation in the period before the annexation of the territory that became present-day Oklahoma. On February 23, 1867, an emissary from the Sans Arc subdivision of the Lakota Sioux was in Washington, D.C. His presence, recorded amid a time of tensions and promises, points to the search for dialogue. He probably dealt with agreements, negotiations, and policies that would impact indigenous rights and lands. The photo shows Sarah Ayers Harris of the Catawba Nation. A direct descendant, she carries her people's memory in her face. In 1908, at 77 years old, she remained among the last keepers of the Catawba language, an almost solitary voice of a tongue that shortly after went silent. Her presence calls on us to remember and preserve. The photo shows an anonymous Ojibwe woman, dated around 1885. She represents one among many indigenous nations of North America, each with its own history and practices. Records like this preserve faces and contexts and let us glimpse memories, territories, and bonds of the period. In 1908, in Washington, the image shows Rhoda Winier Williams, a woman of the Yakama Nation. Coming from the Columbia Plateau, her presence connects the Yakama people's history to today's gaze. The photograph is more than a portrait. It opens a passage to ways of life, memories, and meanings that cross generations. The photo shows Lena Cayuga, 17 years old, of the Seneca Nation, one of the 6 that formed the Iroquois Confederacy. The picture was taken at the Louisiana Purchase Exposition in St. Louis, a fair that celebrated the U.S. purchase of Louisiana, a landmark in the country's history. In the portrait, a Native American woman faces the camera. Her firm posture suggests calm and respect for her roots. Her bare torso, common in certain rites, appears without exoticism as part of everyday life. Crafted necklaces shape her chest and tell stories, belonging, memory, and place in the community. We've reached the end of our video. Subscribe to our channel and leave a comment if you like the content. See you next time.